Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Myself Ashwin Nayak. From today, going to start social science for ninth standard in the chapter of political science. At that first chapter, our constitution. So, what was this name? Our constitution. In this previous class, we have to study the Indian Constitution Assembly and then our constitution and then drafting committees and framing of this constitution and then preambles of this constitution and the silent features of this our constitution. So these are all information we have to study in my previous class, but still today let us go to start it now the fundamental rights and duties. Fundamental rights and then duties. The fundamental rights to provide the social and political atmosphere necessary for this development of personality of citizen. They are required for a person to lead a civilized life in the society. They are also essential for the success of this democracy. There are seven fundamental rights in our constitution and then the 11 fundamental duties in our Indian constitution. So, first of all, we are going to know that the fundamental rights of these Indian civil citizens. So, what is the meaning of rights? The rights literally means those freedom which are essential for personal good as well as the good of this community. That Indian government has given to the six fundamental rights are there. At that first one, right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, culture and educational rights, right to constitutional remedies. So there are given by the six fundamental rights is there. So at that first one, right to equality. This is very essential for the success of this democracy. All are equal before the law and nobody is above the law. All should get equal protections of this law and none should be discriminated against on the basis of their caste, religion, gender, or place of the birth. No citizen should be subjected to any restrictions with regard to access the shops, public restaurant, hotel, place of public entertainment, or public place of worship. Under this right, untouchability is an offense. This right has enabled every citizen to get an equal opportunity to join government services. And then second one is right to freedom. It is one of the important fundamental rights. Under this right, one who express his own opinion to conduct meeting without arms, to establish organization, to live anywhere in India, and to follow any profession and move around their country. It is a protective right also, and no one can arrest it without a proper reason. The freedom of our associations of union, the assembles of peaceful without arm, and the next one, right against exploitation. The aim of this right is the private exploitations of women, children, poor, and the weak, begging the Devadasi system, practices of sati, immoral activities of formed labors have been prohibited. Employment of children under the 14 years of the age in mining, industries, and other dangerous occupations is punished under this law. And the next one, the right to freedom of religion. All religion are equal before the state, and no religion shall be given the preference over the others. The citizens are free to the preach, practice, propagate any religion on their choice. The objectives of this right is the sustain two principles of this secularism of India. And the next one, the cultural and educational rights. The all citizens of country have their own language, script and culture. It is duty of the state and protect them. This rights protects in interesting of religion and linguistic minorities. No one can be denied additions in government, aided industries, or institutions run by minorities. And the third one, the right to constitutional remedies. The empower the citizen to move the court of law in case of any denial of fundamental rights. So whenever that rights are violated either by a person or state government or central government, the citizen may appear to directly to the Supreme Court of their protection. So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has called these rights the heart and soul of the Constitution. Okay, what did Dr. B.R. Ambedkar says that? The constitutional remedies, so in this rights is the heart of the soul of Indian constitutions ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರು. The Supreme Court is empowered to enforce of these fundamental rights, hence it is called the protector of fundamental rights. Even the high courts have the power to pass the following rights under that article 226. At that first one, habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, certiorari, and quarantined, co-quarantined. So these are all were the public interested. It is public interested litigations can be filed with the court in order to protect their social rights defined to the citizen and protect public interested. And the next one, the main topic, fundamental duties. These fundamental duties, rights and duties are the two faces of this same coin. Rights without duties have no value or significance. The 11 fundamental duties were including the fourth chapter A part, Article 51A with the 42 amendment to the Constitution. With the 86 amendment 2002, there are the 11 fundamental duties are there. So what are the fundamental duties? Okay, there are the 11 fundamental duties is there. There are to avoid by the constitution and respect to the national flag and national anthem. Second one, to cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired our national struggle for freedom. To uphold the protect to sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. To defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so. To protect the harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all people, Indian transcending religious, linguistic, and religion sectional diversities and renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women, the value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture, to protect and improve the natural environment, including forest, lake, river, and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creations, to develop their scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inequality and reform, to safeguard public property and to be abjure violence, to strive towards excellence in the space of this individual and collective activities, so that the national constantly rise to higher level of these endowments of achievement, to provide opportunities for education by the parents and the guardians to his child, or a ward between the age of 6 to 14 years, as the case may be, added by 86 constitutional amendment in 2002. So there are Indian government given to the 11 fundamental duties in their Indian citizen. So unlike fundamental rights, there is no protection for this court of this law with regard to the duties. However, there will be punishment under law for those who violate their duties. And the next one concept is directive principle of state policy. Directive principle of state policies. Directive principles of state policy with an aim establish a welfare state. Certain directive principles of the state policy have been incorporated in the constitution under the 36 to 51 article. The principles serve as guidelines to the state framer of our constitution, were inspired by this the Irish constitutions too, including such directive principles. These directive principles are in the forms of directions to the central and state government. Through this government intend to provide economic, social and political justice to the citizen. If the government or central state do not implement them, they cannot to equalize it in the court of the law. These principles are socialist and liberal and have been based on the Gandhian ideals. Any individual or part that comes to the power has to rule keeping these principles as guides. Hence, these directives or they're called the principles. The province of these directive principles there are divided into the three types. And that first one, socialist principles, Gandhian principles, and then liberal intellectual principles. Hence, the directive principles are to provide the adequate means of livelihood to all citizens, to prevent the community to wealth and resource from this becoming a private properties of a few people, to provide equal work to both men and women, to protect labor welfare, to establish grama panchayat, to encourage the rural and cottage industries, to provide opportunities for this development of a health and preschool education to all children below for this 6 years, to organize and development agriculture and animal husbandry on modern lines, to implement of uniform civil code throughout the country, the uniform and liberal code of this law for this all citizens of this India, to separate the executive from the judiciary, to protect historical monuments and maintains place for these historical interests. So the ensure the protections of, to ensure the prohibitions of liquor, to ensure development of framing based for these scientific methods, to provide public assistance to those who are old and sick, the weak or helpless. So those are all the directive, so those are all the directive principles of the state policy are important. The central and the state government are making attempt to the implement all the principles. The principles aims at holistic development in India. There are the inductors of holistic developments of India. So these are all were directive principles of state policies. So orally we have to study now the concept of our political science first chapter, our constitution. This chapter will be the close.